I'm Major Mina Glenford, 34 years old, and I built my career the hard way. One deployment, one flight hour, one mission at a time. For years, I gave everything to the uniform. I trained others, filled gaps no one else wanted, and kept my head down while others took credit. But when a sergeant publicly accused me of stolen valor and ordered me to strip off my uniform in front of an entire unit, I made a choice that changed everything. Have you ever been humiliated by people who didn't know your worth, the same ones you once would have protected without hesitation? If so, you're not alone. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to stand up for yourself after being underestimated or disrespected, hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories about holding your ground and reclaiming your respect. What happened next? Let's just say, they stopped laughing when the truth came out. I walk into the briefing room at 1400 hours on a Tuesday, and the first thing I notice is the silence that follows. Not the respectful kind, the assessing kind. The room's packed with enlisted personnel and junior officers, most of them half my age, and every single one of them has their eyes on me. A few exchange glances. One airman nudges another. I catch the tail end of a smirk before it disappears behind a hand. I'm Major Mina Glenford, reassigned 3 days ago to Joint Training Command at Nellis Air Force Base. My duffel's still half unpacked in base housing. My clearance files are somewhere in transit between CENTCOM and here, caught in the bureaucratic machinery that seems to move slower every year. I've been through this before: new base, new faces, the inevitable delay while the system catches up with reality. But something about this room feels different. The disrespect isn't subtle. It's hanging in the air like smoke. I take a seat in the second row, set my tablet on the desk, and wait. The briefing doesn't start for another 10 minutes, but I'm early by habit. Around me, conversations resume in low tones. I hear fragments, talk about weekend plans, upcoming exercises, something about the Vegas Strip. Normal enough. Then I hear it, just loud enough to be intentional. Quota pilot. The words come from somewhere behind me. I don't turn around. My shoulders stay level, my expression unchanged. I've heard worse, and in worse places. But the laughter that follows, quick, muffled, complicit, that's what tells me this isn't random. Someone's setting a tone here, and the rest are following along. The briefing officer arrives, a captain I don't recognize, and we go through the standard rundown. Training schedules, equipment allocations, safety protocols. I take notes where appropriate. When it's over, people start filing out, and I make my way toward the duty desk to check on my access credentials. That's when I see him. Sergeant Travis Cole. E6, Technical Sergeant, according to the name tape on his ABUs. He's holding court near the coffee station, mid-20s, confident in that way some NCOs get when they've been at a base long enough to know everyone's business. He's telling a story, gesturing with his hands, and his audience is eating it up. When he notices me approaching the desk, his eyes flick over, then away. Dismissive. I ask the admin airman about my clearance status. She checks the system, frowns, checks again. Ma'am, I'm not seeing your flight records or clearance level in the database yet. It says your file's still processing. How long? Could be a few days. Maybe a week. I nod. Standard delay. Frustrating, but not unusual. I thank her and turn to leave. That's when Cole speaks up, louder than necessary. You're not wearing that insignia right, ma'am. I stop. The room doesn't go silent, but it gets quieter. People sense something happening. I look down at my uniform, then back at him. Everything's in order: rank, ribbons, wings. I know it is. I checked twice this morning. Excuse me, Sergeant? He steps closer, hands on his hips, smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Just saying, ma'am. Might want to make sure you've earned it first. It's not a question. It's a challenge, delivered with just enough plausible deniability that he can claim he was being helpful if I push back. I've seen this game before. It's a test: see how the new officer reacts under pressure, see if she's got the spine to push back or if she'll fold. But there's something else underneath it. Something personal. He doesn't know me, but he's already decided who I am. I meet his eyes. Hold them. My voice comes out level, almost soft. I'll take that under advisement, Sergeant. I leave before he can respond. Behind me, I hear low laughter, someone muttering something I don't catch. I don't need to. I know what they're thinking. They see a female officer, probably fresh out of some staff assignment, probably here because of some diversity initiative. They see someone who doesn't belong. They don't see the 5 years I spent flying missions they'll never read about in places they'll never deploy to. They don't see the nights I came back with fuel fumes in my lungs and blood on my flight suit. They don't see Unit 77, because Unit 77 doesn't exist. Not officially, not anymore. Back in my quarters that night, I unpack the last box from my storage locker. Inside, wrapped in a PT shirt, is a mission patch I haven't looked at in 2 years. Black background, silver falcon, twin daggers crossed beneath it. No unit designation, no motto. The people who wore it didn't need words to explain what it meant. I run my thumb over the stitching, thinking about the men and women who earned the right to wear it. Thinking about the ones who didn't come back. Noah Decker, my wingman, who pulled me out of a downed Hello and Hellmanned when I should have burned. Colonel Vance Harlow, who taught me that real leadership isn't about being loud, it's about being right. All of us, bound by something deeper than rank or regulation. We were a team that operated in the margins, doing the work nobody wanted credit for. When the unit was quietly disbanded, our records were sealed. Classified. The mission scrubbed from official logs. We were told it was for operational security, and maybe that was true. But it also meant that when we moved on to new assignments, we carried our history in silence. No one knew what we'd done. No one knew what it cost. I set the patch on my desk and stare at it for a long time. Tomorrow, I'll go back to that briefing room. I'll sit through another round of side glances and veiled comments. I'll do my job, follow the protocols, and wait for the system to catch up. But something shifted today. Something I need to address, not because my pride's wounded, but because discipline matters. Respect matters. And right now, this command's losing both. I think about Cole's face when he said I hadn't earned my insignia. The certainty in his voice. The casual cruelty. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, and that ignorance is dangerous. Not just for me, for everyone under his influence. Before I go to bed, I pull up the personnel roster on my tablet and scroll through the names. Cole's file is clean, no disciplinary issues, solid performance reviews. He's good at his job, probably. But being good at your job doesn't give you the right to undermine an officer, especially not in front of junior enlisted. That kind of behavior, left unchecked, rots a unit from the inside out. I close the tablet and lie back on my bunk. The base is quiet now, just the low hum of HVAC and distant sounds of aircraft on the flight line. I think about tomorrow, about what comes next. I think about the tattoo on my ribcage, the one I got after our last mission together, the one that marks me as part of something most people will never understand. They want proof I belong. Fine. They'll get it. Just not the way they expect. The incident happens 4 days later during a routine inspection. I'm standing in formation with the rest of the training flight, waiting while the duty NCO walks the line checking uniforms and appearance. It's standard procedure, mundane, the kind of thing you do 1,000 times in a career without thinking about it. But today's different. Today, Cole's running the inspection. He moves down the line with exaggerated precision, pausing at each person, checking insignia, ribbons, boots. When he gets to me, he stops longer than necessary. I feel his eyes on my uniform, searching for something out of place. He won't find it. Everything's exact rank, ribbons, wings, name tape. I made sure of it. But then he speaks, loud enough for everyone to hear. Ma'am, your credentials still haven't cleared the system. I'm aware, Sergeant. Without proper clearance verification, I'm not sure you're authorized to wear that rank insignia. The formation shifts. People turn their heads slightly, trying to see without being obvious. I keep my eyes forward, but my jaw tightens. This isn't procedure. This is theater. My rank is confirmed through AFPC, Sergeant. The clearance delay is administrative. Respectfully, ma'am, I can't verify that. He steps closer, voice dropping just enough to sound reasonable. For all I know, you could be impersonating an officer. Stolen valor's a serious crime. The words land like a slap. Around us, I hear sharp intakes of breath. Someone mutters a curse under their breath. This isn't hazing. This isn't a test. This is a direct accusation, and he's making it in front of 24 witnesses. I turn my head slowly, meeting his eyes. You're out of line, Sergeant. I'm following protocol, ma'am. He gestures to my jacket. If you're really an officer, you won't mind proving it. Take that uniform off. The room goes still. No one moves. No one speaks. It's so quiet I can hear the ventilation system humming in the ceiling. Behind Cole, I see Captain Reed Holt, the training flight ops officer, watching but not intervening. He should step in. He doesn't. I have two choices here. I can refuse, escalate this to the commander, and spend the next 3 weeks buried in an investigation that'll mark me as a troublemaker. Or I can do what he's asking and end this now. I reach for the first button on my jacket. Cole smirks. Behind him, someone laughs nervously. The sound breaks the tension just enough for others to join in, not loud, but present. They think this is funny. They think I'm about to be humiliated. I undo the second button. Third. Fourth. The jacket comes off, and I hand it to the airman standing next to me. I'm wearing my tan t-shirt underneath. Regulation, nothing wrong with it. But as I move, the fabric shifts and the edge of my tattoo becomes visible along my ribcage. It's not large, maybe 4 inches across. Black ink, clean lines. A falcon in profile, wings spread, talons extended. Beneath it, 2 daggers crossed at the blades. No words. No flourishes. Just the mark. The laughter stops. Cole sees it. His eyes lock onto the design, and I watch the recognition hit him in stages. First confusion, he's seen this symbol before, somewhere, in a briefing or a rumor. Then disbelief. Then something close to panic. He stumbles back half a step. His voice comes out hoarse. Ma'am, you're with them? I don't answer right away. I let the question hang in the air, let everyone in the room see what happens when you make assumptions. Then I take my jacket back from the airman and put it on, one arm at a time, slow and deliberate. I button it up from the bottom, smoothing out the fabric. When I'm finished, I look at Cole. His face has gone pale. He knows what that tattoo means, or at least, he knows enough to be terrified. Unit 77. The ghost unit. The one that didn't exist on paper, but existed everywhere that mattered. The one that pulled off operations in 5 different theaters without leaving a trail. The one that lost 30% of its personnel and never made the news. I keep my voice quiet, controlled. Sergeant Cole, you're dismissed from this inspection. Report to your supervisor. Now. He opens his mouth, closes it. For a second, I think he might try to salvage this, might try to apologize or explain. But he doesn't. He salutes, sharp, correct, and walks out of the room. The door closes behind him with a soft click. I turn back to the formation. Every face is staring at me, wide-eyed, silent. I let the moment stretch, let them feel the weight of what just happened. Inspection is over. Dismissed. They scatter fast, filing out in hurried clusters, whispering as they go. Within an hour, the story will be all over base. By tomorrow, everyone will know. And for the first time since I arrived, they'll know exactly who I am. Unit 77 was born out of necessity. That's what Colonel Harlow told us during the first briefing, back when I was a captain with more ambition than sense. It was early spring, and I'd been pulled from my squadron without explanation and flown to a facility in Nevada I'd never heard of. No advance notice. No mission brief. Just orders to report. The room was small, maybe 15 people total. Pilots, mostly, but also a few pararescue jumpers, some recon specialists, a logistics officer who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. We didn't know each other. We didn't know why we were there. All we knew was that someone thought we were worth testing. Harlow walked in, and the room went quiet. He was in his mid-40s then, lean and graying, with the kind of presence that didn't need volume. He stood at the front, hands behind his back, and looked at each of us in turn. When he spoke, his voice was even, almost casual. You're here because you're good. Not just competent, good. You've been vetted, cleared, and selected for an experimental joint operations unit that will not appear in any official record. If you're uncomfortable with that, leave now. No judgment, no repercussions. No one moved. Good. Here's what we do. We fill the gaps. When a mission's too sensitive for conventional forces, too complex for a single branch, too dangerous for anyone who wants credit, that's us. We don't wear unit patches. We don't get medals. And when it's over, most of what we do gets buried. You'll do the work, and someone else will take the credit. That's the deal. He paused, letting it sink in. Then he smiled, just slightly. Still interested? I stayed. Over the next 5 years, Unit 77 became my life. We trained constantly, live-fire exercises, integrated missions, scenarios that would have been illegal to run in peacetime. We learned to operate with total autonomy, to trust each other's judgment without question, to accept that failure wasn't an option because no one was coming to bail us out. My wingman was Noah Decker, a lieutenant then, cocky and brilliant in equal measure. He flew like he was born in a cockpit, instinctive, fearless. Off-duty, he was the kind of guy who'd quote poetry and then beat you at poker. We flew together so often that I stopped thinking of him as my wingman and started thinking of him as an extension of myself. When I banked left, he was already there. When I called for cover, he was in position before I finished the sentence. Our first real mission was in Kandahar. Extraction Op 3 personnel pinned down in hostile territory, zero margin for error. We went in at night, low altitude, no lights. I flew lead while Noah handled comms and covering fire. The LZ was hot, rounds snapping past my canopy, but we got them out. All 3. No casualties. After that, the missions kept coming. Helmand Province. Niger. Places I can't name, doing things I can't describe. We lost people. Not many, but enough. Each loss carved something out of the unit, left a space that couldn't be filled. We held memorial services in private, no press, no public record. Just us, standing in silence, remembering. The tattoo came after our last mission together. We'd been deployed for 8 months straight, running operations back-to-back with almost no downtime. Harlow called us in one afternoon and told us the unit was being retired. Not disbanded, retired. Quietly. The official line was restructuring, budget cuts, shifting priorities. The truth was more complicated. We'd done our job too well, become too visible, attracted too much attention from people who didn't like the idea of a unit operating outside normal channels. We had 2 weeks to wrap up. On the last night, someone suggested we get matching tattoos, something to mark what we'd been, what we'd done. It was Noah's idea, actually. He found a tattoo artist in Reno who'd worked with military before, someone who understood operational security. We went together, all 15 of us who were left, and we got the same design. The falcon and daggers. Simple, clean, permanent. Harlow got his on his shoulder. Noah got his on his forearm. I chose my ribcage because I wanted it close, protected, private. When it was done, we stood outside the shop in the desert night, smoking cigarettes and not saying much. There wasn't much to say. We'd been something rare, something most people would never understand, and now it was over. 2 weeks later, I was reassigned to training command. Noah went to a fighter squadron in Alaska. Harlow retired and moved to Montana. We stayed in touch for a while, emails, occasional calls, but eventually, life took over. The missions became memories. The memories became stories I couldn't tell. But the tattoo stayed. And every time I saw it in the mirror, I remembered what it meant. Not the missions, not the danger, but the people. The trust. The idea that some things matter more than recognition, more than rank, more than being remembered. That's what Cole doesn't understand. That's what none of them understand. They think service is about the uniform, the medals, the salutes. They don't realize it's about what you're willing to do when no one's watching, when no one will ever know, when the only reward is knowing you did it right. I think about that now, sitting in my quarters, looking at the old mission patch. Unit 77 is gone, but what it stood for isn't. Not yet. Not while I'm still here. And maybe that's why I'm not angrier about what happened today. Because Cole's ignorance isn't malicious, it's just ignorance. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. But he's about to learn. The call comes at 0700 hours the next morning. I'm in the middle of my morning run when my phone buzzes in my armband. I stop, check the screen. It's the base commander's office. They want to see me at 0900. No explanation, just a time and a location. I finish my run, shower, and put on a fresh uniform. When I arrive at the administrative building, the receptionist waves me through without a word. I've been here before: standard check-in meetings, paperwork reviews, the usual administrative machinery. But today feels different. The hallways are quieter than usual, and the few people I pass avoid eye contact. Lieutenant Colonel Dempsey's office is on the second floor, corner suite with a window overlooking the flight line. He's sitting behind his desk when I walk in, a stack of folders in front of him, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looks up, gestures to the chair across from him. Major Glenford. Sit. I sit. He takes off his glasses, sets them down carefully, and folds his hands on the desk. For a long moment, he just looks at me, like he's trying to decide how to start. Finally, he sighs. I'm going to be direct. What happened yesterday during inspection? It's all over the base. Half the people here think Cole should be court-martialed. The other half think you humiliated him on purpose. I didn't humiliate anyone, sir. I followed his instructions. I know. I've seen the witness statements. I've also seen your file. He taps one of the folders. Or at least, what's available. Most of your service record from the last 5 years is redacted. Black bars everywhere. The system flags your clearance level as need to know, which means I don't need to know. That's not standard for a training command assignment. It's a paperwork delay, sir. My clearance should update within the week. He leans back in his chair, studying me. Cole accused you of stolen valor in front of witnesses. That's a serious allegation. If you want to press charges, you'd be within your rights. I don't. His eyebrows go up. You don't. No, sir. Sergeant Cole made an error in judgment. He acted on incomplete information. I don't see the value in punishing him for something that was ultimately a systems failure. Dempsey's quiet for a moment, then nods slowly. That's remarkably generous, Major. Most officers would have had his stripes for that. Most officers aren't interested in rebuilding a command, sir. They're interested in protecting their reputation. He almost smiles at that. Almost. And you're interested in rebuilding? I'm interested in discipline, sir. Real discipline, not the kind that comes from fear, but the kind that comes from respect. Right now, this command doesn't have that. Cole's behavior is a symptom, not the problem. And what is the problem? I choose my words carefully. Permission to speak freely? Granted. The problem is that standards have slipped. The junior enlisted don't respect the NCOs because the NCOs don't respect the officers. The officers don't intervene because they're afraid of being labeled as difficult. Everyone's going through the motions, checking boxes, waiting for their next assignment. No one's actually leading. Dempsey doesn't respond right away. He picks up his glasses, puts them back on, and opens the folder in front of him. He scans a page, then another. When he looks up, his expression is unreadable. You were part of something classified. Something that doesn't officially exist. I can't ask you about it, and you can't tell me. But whatever it was, it clearly left an impression. He closes the folder. Here's what I'm prepared to offer. I'm assigning you to lead the next joint training phase. You'll have full authority over the curriculum, personnel assignments, and disciplinary actions. Cole and the others who were in that room yesterday? They'll be under your command. If you can turn them around, prove that your approach works, then we'll talk about making this permanent. Maybe even a promotion. I keep my face neutral, but inside, something shifts. This is more than I expected. And if I can't? Then you'll finish your rotation here and move on, just like everyone else. But based on what I'm seeing in your file, the parts one can see, I don't think that's going to be a problem. He stands, and I stand with him. He extends his hand, and I shake it. His grip is firm, professional. Don't make me regret this, Major. I won't, sir. I leave his office with a sense of purpose I haven't felt in months. This isn't just about proving myself anymore. It's about proving that the way we did things in Unit 77, the discipline, the precision, the mutual respect, that it can work outside the black operations world. That it can work anywhere if people are willing to commit to it. The first thing I do is pull the training roster and review every name. 32 personnel total, ranging from E3 to O3. Most of them have clean records, a few minor infractions, nothing serious. Cole's name is near the top, marked with a note from his supervisor. Technically proficient, needs refinement in leadership approach. That's putting it mildly. I spend the rest of the morning drafting a new training schedule. More live exercises, fewer classroom briefings. Emphasis on teamwork, cross-functional integration, real-time decision-making. I build in stress scenarios, equipment failures, communication breakdowns, hostile environments. Not to break them, but to show them what they're capable of when they stop relying on rank and start relying on each other. That night, I'm back in my quarters when there's a knock on the door. I open it to find Cole standing there, stiff and formal, hands at his sides. He looks like he hasn't slept. "Ma'am. Permission to speak." I step aside, let him in. He doesn't sit. Just stands in the middle of the room, staring at a spot somewhere over my shoulder. "I came to apologize, ma'am. What I did yesterday was out of line. It was unprofessional, and it was disrespectful, and I have no excuse for it." His voice is steady, rehearsed. He's been practicing this. I let him finish, then gesture to the chair. "Sit down, Sergeant." He hesitates, then sits. I take the chair across from him, keeping my posture relaxed. "Do you know what Unit 77 was?" He shakes his head. "Not exactly, ma'am. I've heard rumors, but nothing official." That's because nothing about it is official. We operated off the books, doing missions most people will never know about. High risk, high value targets. No margin for error. The only reason we survived as long as we did was because we trusted each other completely. No ego. No hierarchy beyond what was necessary to function. We were a team, and that meant something. I lean forward slightly. "You accused me of stolen valor because you didn't know my history. That's understandable, my records are sealed. But you made that accusation in front of subordinates, and that's not acceptable. Not because it hurt my feelings, but because it undermined the entire chain of command. If they can't trust that officers have earned their rank, the whole system falls apart." He nods, swallowing hard. "Yes, ma'am. I understand." "Do you?" "Because I don't think you do. I think you understand that you made a mistake. I don't think you understand why it matters." His jaw tightens, but he doesn't argue. I let the silence stretch, then continue. "You're a good NCO, Sergeant. Your record shows that. But being good at your job isn't enough. You need to lead by example, and that means treating everyone, junior enlisted, fellow NCOs, officers, with the respect their position demands. Not because they've proven themselves to you personally, but because the structure requires it." He meets my eyes for the first time since sitting down. "How do I fix this, ma'am?" "You earn their trust back. Same way you earned it the first time, by being competent, reliable, and professional. It'll take time. But if you're willing to put in the work, I'm willing to give you the chance." He stands, snaps to attention. "Thank you, ma'am." After he leaves, I sit alone in the quiet, thinking about what comes next. This isn't going to be easy. Changing culture never is. But for the first time since I got here, I feel like maybe it's possible. Maybe I can take what I learned in Unit 77 and apply it here, in this ordinary training command, with these ordinary people who just need someone to show them what real discipline looks like. And maybe, just maybe, that's a mission worth flying. Training begins the following Monday at 0500 hours. I've scheduled the first exercise for dawn, a full-scale simulated emergency response involving all 32 personnel under my command. No advance warning beyond the notice I posted 48 hours prior. Be ready for anything. They show up on time, most of them anyway, assembled on the tarmac in loose formation. The air's cold, the sky's still dark, and I can see breath misting in the floodlights. Cole's near the front, standing at rigid attention. A few others look curious. Most just look tired. I don't waste time on speeches. We're running a scenario. Aircraft down, crew injured, hostile environment. Your job is to coordinate rescue, secure the perimeter, and extract personnel within 30 minutes. You'll be working across specialties, pilots with ground crew, NCOs with junior enlisted. Rank matters for chain of command, but competence matters more. If someone has a better idea, speak up. If you see a problem, fix it. Clear? A chorus of "Yes, ma'am" echoes back. Good. The clock starts now. I trigger the simulation. Alarms blare. Red lights flash across the training area. The scenario unfolds on their tablets, coordinates, casualty reports, equipment status. I watch from the observation tower as they scramble to organize. At first, it's chaos. People shouting over each other, unclear orders, wasted motion. Cole tries to take charge, but he's overcomplicating it, issuing commands faster than people can execute them. An airman first class, Cross, according to her name tape, steps forward. Sergeant, if we split into 2 teams, one for triage and one for perimeter, we can parallelize. Cole hesitates, then nods. Do it. You take triage. I'll handle perimeter. It's not perfect, but it's progress. They start moving with more purpose, more coordination. The pilots set up a makeshift landing zone while the ground crew preps equipment. When a secondary alarm triggers, simulated hostile contact, they adapt without panic. Captain Holt, the training flight ops officer, coordinates the response, and for the first time since I arrived, I see him actually leading instead of just observing. They complete the scenario in 34 minutes. Not within the target, but close enough for a first attempt. When the simulation ends, they're breathing hard, sweating despite the cold. I descend from the tower and walk through the group, making notes on my tablet. Not bad. But you wasted time arguing about who was in charge instead of just executing. Next time, decide fast and move. If the decision's wrong, you'll figure it out and adjust. Hesitation kills people. I turned across. Good call on the split teams. Why didn't you speak up sooner? She glances at Cole, then back at me. Didn't think it was my place, ma'am. It's always your place if you see something that needs fixing. Rank doesn't make you right, it just makes you responsible. Remember that. Over the next 3 weeks, we run variations of the same exercise. Each time, they get faster, sharper, more efficient. The hierarchy starts to flatten not in terms of command structure, but in terms of communication. Junior enlisted stop waiting for permission to contribute. NCOs stop treating every suggestion as a challenge to their authority. The pilots and ground crew start operating like a single unit instead of separate tribes. Cole changes too. Slowly, but visibly. He stops trying to control every detail and starts trusting his team. When Airman Cross proposes an alternative approach to a logistics problem, he listens, considers it, implements it. When a scenario goes wrong, he doesn't assign blame, he asks what they can learn from it. One night after a particularly grueling exercise, he approaches me in the hangar. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead. How did Unit 77 do it? Stay that tight, that coordinated, under that much pressure. I think about it for a moment, trying to find the right words. We stopped caring about being right and started caring about getting it right. There's a difference. Being right is about ego. Getting it right is about the mission. Once you let go of the ego, everything else gets easier. He nods slowly, like he's working through it in his head. I think I'm starting to understand that. Good. Because you're going to need it. 3 days later, we're running a night exercise when everything goes sideways. Not in the simulation for real. A mechanical failure on one of the training aircraft forces an emergency landing. The pilot, a lieutenant named Vega, manages to put it down on the auxiliary runway, but the landing gear collapses on impact. The plane skids, sparks flying, and comes to rest nose down in the dirt. I'm in the control tower when the call comes through. My instinct is to take over, start issuing orders, manage every detail. But I don't. Instead, I activate the emergency response protocol and watch as my team mobilizes. Cole's voice comes over the radio, calm and clear. All units, this is Sergeant Cole. We have an aircraft down on runway 23. Fire and rescue, move now. Medical, stand by for casualty report. Perimeter team, secure the area. Let's go, people. They move like clockwork. Fire suppression arrives within 2 minutes. Medicals staged and ready. Cross coordinates the triage setup without being asked. Within 8 minutes, Vega and his co-pilot are out of the aircraft, shaken but uninjured. Within 12, the fire's contained and the scene secured. I descend from the tower and walk toward the wreckage. Cole's standing near the perimeter, coordinating with the fire chief. When he sees me, he jogs over. Ma'am, Both crew members are stable. No serious injuries. We're prepping the aircraft for recovery now. I nod. Good work, Sergeant. He looks at me for a long moment, and I see something in his eyes I haven't seen before. Not fear, not resentment, but respect. Real respect, earned and mutual. Permission to speak freely, ma'am? Granted. His voice drops, barely audible over the sound of the fire trucks. I was wrong. About you, about what matters, about all of it. I'm sorry. I don't smile, don't soften. I just meet his eyes and give him a single nod. Apology accepted. Now let's finish securing this scene. That night, back in my quarters, I pull up the incident report and review the timeline. 12 minutes from emergency to all clear. That's faster than most active duty units could manage, and we did it with a mix of trainees and junior personnel. It's not just competence anymore, it's cohesion. They're starting to function the way Unit 77 did, trusting each other's judgment, moving as one. I think about Noah, about Harlow, about everyone who wore the falcon and daggers. They'd be proud of this. Not because we're doing anything extraordinary, but because we're doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. That's what real service looks like. Not the headlines, not the medals, but the day-to-day work of getting it right. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The nomination comes 6 weeks into the training cycle. I don't know about it until Lieutenant Colonel Dempsey calls me into his office and slides a folder across his desk. Your team wants to put you up for a commendation. Letter of recommendation signed by Cole, Holt, and 15 others. They're citing your leadership during the emergency response and the overall improvement in unit cohesion. I open the folder, scan the letter. The language is formal, military standard, but underneath it, I can hear their voices. Cole's precision. Holt's measured analysis. Cross's earnest enthusiasm. They think I deserve recognition for what we've built here. I close the folder and push it back toward Dempsey. I appreciate the gesture, sir, but I'm declining. He blinks. You're declining a commendation? Yes, sir. What we accomplished wasn't the result of individual leadership, it was the result of collective effort. If anyone deserves recognition, it's them. They did the work. They changed the culture. I just gave them the framework. Dempsey leans back, studying me. You realize this could help your promotion prospects. I'm aware, sir. But that's not why I'm here. He's quiet for a long moment, then picks up the folder again. All right. I'll tell them you declined. But for the record, Major, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Respectfully, sir, I'm making it exactly as hard as it should be. Standards matter. And one of those standards is giving credit where it's due. He almost smiles. Dismissed, Major. Back on the training grounds, the atmosphere's shifted. Where there used to be casual disrespect, now there's focus. Where there used to be territorial divisions between ranks and specialties, now there's collaboration. The junior enlisted carry themselves differently, shoulders back, eyes forward, movements precise. The NCOs lead with confidence instead of bluster. Even the officers seem more engaged, more present. Cole's become something of a model for the others. He runs drills with the same intensity one saw in Unit 77, pushing people to their limits, but never beyond them. When someone struggles, he doesn't berate them, he works with them, breaks down the problem, finds solutions. The airmen respect him now, not because they fear him, but because he's earned it. One afternoon, I'm observing a tactical communications exercise when airmen cross approaches during a break. She salutes, and I return it. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead, airman. How do you know when you're ready? For more responsibility, I mean. Everyone keeps saying I should consider OTS, but I don't know if I'm officer material. I look at her, 20 years old, sharp, hungry to learn. She reminds me of myself at that age, before the deployments and the classified missions and the weight of command. You're never going to feel completely ready. The question isn't whether you're ready, it's whether you're willing to grow into it. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to find them when you don't. She nods slowly, processing. Did you always know you wanted to lead? No. I knew I wanted to fly. Leadership came later, when I realized that flying alone wasn't enough. The mission required more than individual skill. It required coordination, trust, People working together towards something bigger than themselves. That's when I understood what leadership actually meant. What does it mean? It means making the people around you better. Not by demanding it, but by showing them what's possible. By setting standards and holding to them even when it's inconvenient. By giving them the tools and the trust to succeed. I pause. You've got potential, Cross. Whether you pursue it is up to you. But don't let fear of not being ready stop you. Nobody's ready. We all just figure it out as we go. She salutes again, sharper this time. Thank you, ma'am. That night, Lieutenant Colonel Dempsey calls another meeting. When I arrive, he's standing by the window, looking out at the flight line. He doesn't turn around when I enter. I've been thinking about what you said. About giving credit where it's due. He turns, and there's something different in his expression. I'm putting the entire team up for a unit citation. Not just you, everyone who participated in the training cycle. It'll go in their records, help with future promotions, assignments. They earned it. That's generous, sir. It's accurate. He crosses to his desk, picks up another folder. I'm also promoting you to Lieutenant Colonel, effective next month. You've demonstrated the kind of leadership this command needs. The kind the Air Force needs. I'd like you to stay on permanently, take over as Deputy Commander of Training Operations. I don't respond immediately. The promotion's significant, 05, Field Grade Officer, real authority. The kind of position that could lead to bigger things if I wanted them. But I think about Unit 77, about the missions we flew without recognition, the work we did that no one will ever know about. I think about what Harlow told us, you'll do the work, and someone else will take the credit. That's the deal. I accept the promotion, sir. But I need to think about the permanent assignment. Can you give me a few days? Take a week. But Glenford, don't overthink this. You've built something here. Don't walk away from it. I leave his office with the folder under my arm, thinking about what comes next. The smart career move is to stay, build on what I've started, maybe make colonel in a few years. But part of me wonders if I'm needed more somewhere else, somewhere the culture hasn't shifted yet, somewhere standards have slipped further than they have here. 3 days later, I'm running pre-dawn laps around the base perimeter when I see Cole doing the same thing. We fall into step without speaking, matching pace. After a mile, he breaks the silence. Heard you're being promoted. Congratulations, ma'am. Thanks. Are you staying? Haven't decided yet. We run another half-mile before he speaks again. For what it's worth, I hope you do. What you've built here, it matters. People are different now. Better. That doesn't happen by accident. It wasn't just me. I know. But it started with you. He glances over. Whatever you decide, I want you to know you changed the way I think about leadership. About service. I won't forget that. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. We finish the run in silence, and when we part ways at the barracks, his salute is sharp, respectful, genuine. That night, I make my decision. I'm staying. Not because it's the smart career move, but because the work isn't finished. There are more Coles out there, more junior enlisted who need to see what real leadership looks like, more commands that have lost their way and need someone to remind them what standards mean. I called Dempsey the next morning and accept the permanent assignment. He sounds relieved, maybe even pleased. Good. We'll make the announcement next week. In the meantime, start thinking about who you want on your staff. You'll have the authority to build your own team. The ceremony happens on a clear Thursday morning, the entire training command assembled on the parade ground. Dempsey reads the promotion orders, and I stand at attention while he pins the new rank insignia on my uniform. When it's done, he steps back and salutes. I return it, and the formation erupts in applause. Afterward, there's a reception in the officers' club. People I've trained, people I've worked with, all of them offering congratulations. Cole's there, standing with Cross and a few other NCOs, looking uncomfortable in his dress uniform. When he catches my eye, he raises his glass slightly. I nod back. But the moment that matters most comes later, when I'm alone in my quarters, packing away the old uniform. I find the Unit 77 patch again, still wrapped in that PT shirt, and I hold it for a long time. I think about Noah, about Harlow, about everyone who wore the falcon and daggers. They're not here to see this, but in a way, they are. Because everything I've done here, Everything I've built, it's rooted in what they taught me. That rail service isn't about recognition. It's about the work. It's about making the people around you better. It's about holding standards even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. I pin the patch to the wall above my desk, next to the new nameplate that reads Lieutenant Colonel Mina Glenford. It's not official, not regulation, but it's mine. A reminder of where I came from and what still matters. The legacy of Unit 77 endures, not in files or medals or official histories, but in the way we treat each other, in the standards we hold, in the quiet work of getting it right. And that, I think, is worth more than any commendation. My final briefing as the new Deputy Commander of Training Operations happens on a Monday morning. The room's packed, nearly 60 personnel, including the entire training staff and several visiting officers from other commands. I stand at the front, looking out at faces that used to regard me with skepticism, but now show something different. Attention, respect, curiosity about what comes next. I keep it short. Over the past 3 months, we've rebuilt this command from the ground up. Not by changing procedures or rewriting manuals, but by returning to fundamentals, discipline, mutual respect, competence. You've proven that when standards matter, performance follows. When people trust each other, missions succeed. This isn't complicated. It's just hard. And you've shown that you're willing to do the hard work. I pause, scanning the room. Cole's in the third row, sitting straight. Cross is near the back, taking notes. Holt's off to the side, arms crossed, but his expression is engaged. Going forward, my expectations are simple. Lead by example. Hold yourselves and each other accountable. Don't wait for permission to do the right thing, just do it. And remember that service isn't about getting credit. It's about getting it done. Dismissed. They file out quietly, and I'm left alone in the room with my notes and the faint echo of boots on tile. I think about Unit 77 again, about how we operated in the margins, doing work that would never be acknowledged. This is different, public, official, on the record, but the principles are the same. You do the work because it needs doing, not because someone will thank you for it. 3 weeks later, I receive orders for a classified posting. The details are sparse, location redacted, mission parameters redacted, even the command structure is listed as need to know. But I recognize the signature at the bottom of the page. Colonel Vance Harlow. He's back in the game, apparently, and he wants me with him. I read the orders twice, then set them on my desk and stare out the window. The flight line's busy, aircraft taxiing, crews running pre-flights, the controlled chaos of a functioning airbase. I've only been here 5 months, but in that time, we've turned this place around. Leaving now feels wrong, like abandoning something unfinished. But that's the nature of this work. You build something, get it running, then move on to the next crisis. Someone else takes over, maintains the momentum, builds on the foundation. That's how progress happens, incrementally, through the accumulated efforts of people who care more about the mission than their own legacy. I call Dempsey and inform him of the orders. He's not surprised. Figured something like this was coming. You're too good to stay in a training command forever. He pauses. For what it's worth, you've made a difference here. Real, measurable change. That doesn't happen often. Thank you, sir. Make sure Cole gets considered for promotion. He's ready. Noted. And Glenford, wherever you're going, they're lucky to have you. My departure is quiet, no ceremony, no fanfare. I prefer it that way. The morning I leave, I walk through the base one last time, memorizing details, the way sunlight hits the tarmac at 0600, the smell of jet fuel and desert air, the sound of engines spooling up for morning sorties. These are the small things that make a place real, that anchor memory when everything else fades. Cole meets me at the transport terminal, along with Cross, Holt, and a handful of others. They stand in formation, unofficial but precise. Cole steps forward and salutes. Permission to speak, ma'am? Granted. We wanted to see you off. And to say, he hesitates, choosing his words. Thank you. For not giving up on us. For showing us what we could be. I return the salute. You did the work, Sergeant. I just reminded you what you were capable of. Don't forget that. Cross steps forward, holding something in her hands. It's a small plaque engraved with the dates of my assignment and a single line, "Standards upheld." Simple, direct, exactly the kind of thing they'd come up with. "We know you don't like recognition, ma'am, but we wanted you to have something to remember us by." I take the plaque, run my thumb over the engraving. "I won't forget any of you." The transport's engines start, a low rumble that builds to a roar. I board, strap in, and watch through the window as they stand at attention until we lift off. The base shrinks below, becoming a grid of runways and buildings and tiny moving figures, then just a point on the desert landscape, then nothing. The flight takes 6 hours. I spend most of it reading mission briefs for the new assignment, but my mind keeps drifting back to the past few months. To the moment Cole accused me of stolen valor. To the tattoo that changed everything. To the slow, grinding work of rebuilding trust and discipline, one conversation and one training exercise at a time. When we land, it's night. The base is remote, off the standard flight paths, the kind of place that doesn't appear on civilian maps. Harlow's waiting on the tarmac, older now, more gray in his hair, but still carrying himself with that same quiet authority. "Mina, good to see you." "Sir." We shake hands, and he gestures toward a waiting vehicle. "We'll talk tomorrow. For now, get settled. You'll want rest before the briefing." My quarters are small, functional, identical to every other set of quarters I've occupied over the years. I unpack my duffel, hang my uniforms, set the plaque from Cole's team on the desk. Next to it, I place the Unit 77 patch. 2 reminders of what I've built, what I've left behind. I think about the story that'll circulate about me, the officer who got humiliated and came back stronger, the leader who turned around a failing command. It's not the whole truth, but it's close enough. People need stories, need heroes, need someone to look up to. If my experience can inspire a few junior officers to hold standards, to demand better from themselves and their teams, then maybe it's worth the discomfort of being remembered. But that's not why I did it. I didn't rebuild that command for recognition or promotion or legacy. I did it because it needed doing. Because standards matter. Because the people who serve deserve leaders who take the work seriously, who understand that discipline isn't about control, it's about trust. That's the lesson of Unit 77. That's what the tattoo represents. Not the missions we flew or the secrets we kept, but the bond we forged through shared commitment to something larger than ourselves. I stand at the window, looking out at the darkened base. Somewhere out there, Cole's leading a training exercise. Cross is studying for her OTS exam. Holt's probably reviewing flight plans, making sure everything's squared away for the morning. They're doing the work, carrying forward what we started, making it their own. And tomorrow, I'll start again. New base, new mission, new people who need to remember what real service looks like. The work never ends. There's always another command slipping, always another leader who needs reminding, always another crisis where standards make the difference between success and failure. But tonight, I allow myself a moment of satisfaction. Not pride, pride's too easy, too self-centered. Just satisfaction. The quiet knowledge that I've left something better than I found it. That's all anyone can do, really. Show up. Do the work. Hold the line. The falcon and daggers on my ribs itch slightly, the way tattoos do sometimes when memory brushes against skin. I press my hand over them, feeling the raised lines through my shirt. 15 people wore this mark. 3 of them are dead. The rest are scattered across the world, doing work that'll never make the news, holding standards in places that need them most. We're not a unit anymore. We're not officially anything. But we're still connected, still bound by the understanding that some things matter more than recognition, more than rank, more than being remembered. The lights on the flight line blink red, white, green aircraft moving through the darkness with precision and purpose. I watch them for a long time, thinking about all the missions I've flown, all the people I've trained, all the moments where the choice was between doing it right and doing it easy. I've always chosen right. It's cost me promotions, friendships, opportunities. But I can look at my reflection and know that I've held the line. That when it mattered, I didn't compromise. That the people who served with me, learned from me, flew with me, they're better for it. That's the legacy worth leaving. Not medals or commendations or plaques on walls. Just the accumulated impact of 1,000 small decisions to demand better, to hold standards, to lead by example even when no one's watching. My nameplate sits on the desk, fresh and new, Lieutenant Colonel Mina Glenford. Beneath it, I place a second one, unofficial, handwritten on a slip of paper. Reaper 7. My call sign from Unit 77, the name I carried through 5 years of missions that'll never be declassified. 2 identities, 2 lives, 1 commitment. To the work. To the standards. To the people who depend on leaders who refuse to compromise. I turn off the light and lie down, but I don't close my eyes. Not yet. I'm thinking about tomorrow, about Harlow's briefing, about whatever mission brought me here. I'm thinking about Cole and Cross and all the others I've left behind, hoping they remember what I taught them, hoping they pass it on. Most of all, I'm thinking about Unit 77, about Noah and the others who didn't make it home. About the promise we made to each other, that their sacrifice wouldn't be wasted, that we'd carry forward the standards they died upholding. That's not revenge. That's not vindication. That's duty. Pure, simple, unglamorous duty. The kind that doesn't make headlines or win awards. The kind that just matters. And somewhere in the desert night, under a sky full of stars that pilots navigate by, I feel at peace. Not because the work is finished, it never is. But because I know with absolute certainty that I've honored the legacy. That I've held the line. That when they needed proof I belonged, I showed them something better than a tattoo or a sealed service record. I showed them what standards look like in practice. What leadership means when it's stripped of ego and politics and personal ambition. What service really is when you commit to it fully, without reservation, without expecting recognition. They wanted proof. The truth is, I never stopped being exactly who I've always been, a pilot, a leader, a guardian of standards that most people have forgotten matter. And tomorrow, I'll do it all over again. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. We're the ones who hold the line. Always. 1 year later, I'm standing in front of a different briefing room, watching a different group of officers file in with the same mixture of curiosity and skepticism I've seen 100 times before. This base is larger than Nellis, more bureaucratic, the kind of place where paperwork moves slower than aircraft and everyone's waiting for their next assignment. I've been here 3 months, pulled from Harlow's operation for what they're calling cultural reformation, which is military speak for this command is broken and we need someone to fix it. The officers take their seats and I scan their faces. Mostly O3s and O4s, a few O5s in the back who probably resent being here. They've heard about me by now. Stories travel fast in the Air Force, especially stories about officers who strip down during inspections and have classified tattoos. Some of them think I'm a legend. Others think I'm a problem. Most just want to know if the stories are true. I don't keep them waiting. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Glenford, and I'm here to talk about standards. Not the ones in the regulations, you already know those. I'm talking about the standards we hold ourselves to when no one's watching, when there's no inspection, no performance review, no promotion board. The standards that determine whether we're actually leading or just managing timelines and checking boxes. I can see a few eye rolls, some crossed arms. They've heard this speech before, probably from a dozen different commanders who talked about excellence and then went back to their offices and rubber-stamped mediocrity. I don't blame them for being cynical. Cynicism's a reasonable response to years of inconsistent leadership. Here's what I know about this command. Your readiness ratings are at 72%, which is 12 points below standard. Your training completion rates are inconsistent. Your personnel reports show low morale and high turnover. And based on the exit interviews I've read, most of your best people are leaving because they don't believe leadership cares about anything except metrics. The room's quiet now. I've got their attention. So here's what's going to change. Starting next week, we're implementing a new training protocol based on what I developed at Nellis. It's harder, more demanding, and it's going to expose every weakness in your current structure. Some of you will hate it. Some of you will request transfers. That's fine. The ones who stay will be better for it, and this command will be better for it. Questions? A major in the third row raises his hand. I nod at him. Ma'am, with respect, We've had 5 different commanders in 3 years, each one promising to fix the culture. What makes your approach different? It's a fair question, delivered without hostility. I appreciate that. The difference is I'm not promising anything. I'm showing you. Starting with myself. Every training exercise I assign, I'll run first. Every standard I set, I'll meet first. I don't lead from behind a desk, I lead from the front. You'll see that over the next few weeks, and then you can decide if you trust the approach. Another hand goes up, this time from a captain near the back. Is it true you were part of Unit 77? There it is. The question everyone wants to ask, but most are too professional to voice. I consider deflecting, keeping it vague, but something tells me this moment matters. These officers need to know I'm not just another bureaucrat playing leadership games. Yes, I flew with Unit 77 for 5 years. Most of what we did is still classified, and I can't discuss it. What I can tell you is that we operated with a level of trust and precision that most conventional units never achieve, because we had to. Our margins for error were 0. That taught me things about leadership that I couldn't have learned anywhere else, and I'm going to share those lessons with you. Not because I think I'm special, but because they work. The captain nods, satisfied. Around the room, I see postures shift slightly, some toward engagement, some toward resistance. That's normal. Change always creates friction. After the briefing, I head to my office and find 3 messages waiting. The first is from Cole, now a master sergeant at his new posting in Germany. He's been promoted twice in the past year and is running his own training program based on what we built together. His message is brief. Heard you're at MacDill now. They're lucky. Give them hell, ma'am. The second message is from Airman Cross, who's no longer an airman. She's Lieutenant Cross now, fresh out of OTS, assigned to a logistics squadron in South Korea. Her message is longer, more detailed, thanking me for encouraging her to pursue her commission and asking for advice on leading her first team. I make a note to respond tonight, to tell her the same things I wish someone had told me at her age. The third message is from Harlow. No text, just a set of coordinates and a date 3 months from now. I know what it means, another operation, another mission that doesn't officially exist. He's giving me time to finish what I started here before pulling me back into the shadows. I close my laptop and look around the office. It's standard issue, metal desk, filing cabinets, a window overlooking the flight line. The walls are bare except for a regulation map and my commission certificate. I haven't put up the Unit 77 patch yet. I'm not sure I will. Some things are meant to stay private. That evening, I run the perimeter alone, a habit I've maintained since my earliest days in the service. The base is massive, and the 5-mile loop takes me past hangars, barracks, administrative buildings, all of it humming with activity. I pass junior enlisted doing PT, NCOs heading to night shifts, officers walking to their cars after long days. Most of them don't notice me. A few nod in recognition. As I round the corner near the fuel depot, I see a familiar scene unfolding. A staff sergeant is berating an airman first class, voice raised, gestures aggressive. The airman's standing at attention, face rigid, taking it. From this distance, I can't hear the specifics, but I recognize the dynamic, a leader using rank as a weapon instead of a tool. I slow my pace, observing. The sergeant notices me, and his demeanor shifts instantly. He lowers his voice, steps back, adopts the more professional posture. The airman sees me too, and something flickers across their face, relief, maybe, or hope. I stop jogging and approach them. Both salute. I return it. Staff Sergeant, is there a problem here? No, ma'am. Just conducting corrective training. At 1800 hours on a running path? His jaw tightens. The airman made an error on a maintenance log. I was ensuring they understood the importance of accuracy. I turned to the airman. What's your name? Airman First Class Rivera, ma'am. What error did you make? Rivera hesitates, glancing at the sergeant, then back at me. I transposed 2 numbers on a fuel quantity report, ma'am. It was caught during QA, and I corrected it immediately. Has this happened before? No, ma'am. First time. I look at the sergeant. So this is a single mistake, immediately corrected by an airman with an otherwise clean record? Yes, ma'am, but And you felt the appropriate response was public humiliation? He doesn't answer. I let the silence stretch, then continue. Staff Sergeant, corrective training has its place. Public berating does not. If Airman Rivera made a mistake, address it professionally, document it if necessary, and move on. Mistakes are how people learn. If you create an environment where they're terrified of making them, you don't get excellence. You get people who hide problems until they become catastrophic. The sergeant's face is red now, a mixture of embarrassment and anger. Yes, ma'am. I turn back to Rivera. You made a mistake. You owned it and fixed it. That's the right response. Learn from it and move forward. Dismissed. Rivera salutes and practically sprints away. The sergeant lingers, and I can see him wrestling with whether to say something. Finally, he speaks. Ma'am, with respect, you undermined my authority in front of an airman. No, Sergeant. You undermined your own authority by abusing it. I just pointed that out. If you want respect from your team, earn it through competence and professionalism, not fear. Now, unless you have something else to discuss, you're dismissed. He salutes sharply and walks away. I resume my run, but the encounter stays with me. That's the real work, not the big speeches or the training protocols, but the hundreds of small moments where you either uphold standards or let them slide. Every interaction matters. Every decision sets a precedent. 3 weeks later, we launch the first major training exercise under the new protocols. It's a 3-day event involving all operational squadrons, simulating a full-scale deployment with minimal notice. The scenario's deliberately ambiguous, enemy composition unknown, objectives shifting, communications compromised. The kind of situation that reveals whether a unit can adapt or just execute pre-planned responses. I'm in the command center when the exercise begins at 0400 hours. Around me, staff officers monitor feeds, track unit movements, coordinate logistics. I've positioned myself where I can observe without interfering, unless something goes seriously wrong. This is their show to run. The first 12 hours are rough. Units struggle with the ambiguity, waiting for clear orders instead of making decisions based on available information. Communications break down because people rely too heavily on technology instead of backup protocols. A logistics failure creates a cascade of delays that nearly derails the entire exercise. But then something shifts. A captain named Martinez, someone I've never met before, steps up and starts coordinating between units without waiting for permission. He identifies the logistics bottleneck and reroutes supplies using an alternative method that's technically not in the standard operating procedures, but is perfectly sound. Other officers see his initiative and follow suit. Within hours, the exercise transforms from a struggling mess into something that actually resembles coordinated operations. I watch it unfold with a sense of satisfaction I've learned not to trust too early. This could be a fluke, an anomaly. The real test is whether they can sustain it. By the end of day 2, they're operating at a level I haven't seen in a conventional command. Not as tight as Unit 77 was, that took years to build, but competent, adaptive, professional. When equipment fails, they improvise. When orders conflict, they clarify instead of guessing. When someone makes a mistake, they acknowledge it and adjust. On the morning of day 3, I join them in the field. I've been watching from the command center long enough. It's time to see how they react when leadership's present but not directing. I arrive at the forward operating base they've established, really just a section of unused tarmac with temporary shelters and equipment, and walk through unannounced. Heads turn. People snap to attention. I wave them back to work. Carry on. I'm just observing. Captain Martinez approaches, looking tired but focused. Ma'am, we're about to run the final phase of the exercise. Enemy air assault with coordinated ground elements. We're implementing a layered defense using the adaptive protocols you outlined in the training brief. Show me. He walks me through their setup. It's good, not perfect, but solid. They've identified potential weak points and allocated resources accordingly. More importantly, they've built in contingencies, showing they've learned that plans rarely survive contact with reality. One question, Captain. What happens if your primary communications array goes down? He doesn't hesitate. We switch to the backup relay system and revert to abbreviated call signs. If that fails, we use runners and visual signals. We've drilled both scenarios. Good. Execute your plan. The final phase unfolds over 6 hours. The simulated enemy force is aggressive, probing for weaknesses, forcing constant adaptation. I watch as the command team coordinates responses, as NCOs lead their teams without constant officer oversight, as junior enlisted execute tasks with precision and confidence. There are mistakes, there always are, but they're caught quickly and corrected without drama. When the exercise concludes at 1600 hours, the exhaustion's visible on every face. But underneath it, there's something else. Pride. The knowledge that they've performed at a level they didn't know they were capable of. I call everyone together for a debrief. Nearly 200 personnel assembled in rough formation, sweaty, dirty, waiting to hear what I thought. You started this exercise struggling with basic coordination. You ended it executing complex operations under pressure. That transformation didn't happen because I told you to do better. It happened because you decided to demand better from yourselves and each other. Captain Martinez made decisions without waiting for permission. Senior Airman Chin identified and solved a critical logistics problem. Staff Sergeant Williams coordinated defensive positions across 3 separate units. Those are just examples. Everyone here contributed something essential. I pause, making eye contact with people throughout the formation. This is what this command is capable of when you commit to standards instead of just going through the motions. The question is whether you can sustain it. Whether you'll hold to these principles when I'm not watching, when there's no exercise, when it would be easier to slide back into old habits. That's up to you. After dismissing them, I return to my office and find Lieutenant Colonel Dempsey on a video call waiting for me. He's smiling, which is unusual for him. Heard your exercise went well. Got a call from your wing commander saying it was the best training event they've seen in 5 years. It was a good start. Too early to call it a success. Spoken like someone who actually understands leadership. He leans back. I'm calling because Cole asked me to pass along a message. He's been selected for promotion to Senior Master Sergeant. Wanted to make sure you knew. I feel something warm expand in my chest. That's outstanding. He earned it. He said the same thing about you when you got promoted. Said you taught him what real leadership looked like. Dempsey's expression turns more serious. You're building something here, Mina. Same thing you built at Nellis. People notice. The good ones, anyway. After the call ends, I sit in the quiet office and think about what he said. I'm not building something, I'm rebuilding it. The standards have always been there, in the regulations and the traditions and the lessons passed down through generations of military service. They just get forgotten sometimes, buried under bureaucracy and careerism and the slow erosion of taking the easy path. My job isn't to invent new principles. It's to remind people of the old ones. To show them that discipline isn't restriction, it's freedom. That respect isn't automatic, it's earned. That leadership isn't about authority, it's about service. That night, I finally unpack the Unit 77 patch and pin it to the wall of my office, next to a photo of my current command team taken during the exercise. 2 different groups, separated by classification and circumstance, but connected by the same fundamental commitment to excellence. I think about Noah, about Harlow, about everyone who wore the falcon and daggers. They'd recognize what I'm doing here. They'd understand that this is how the legacy continues, not through secret missions or classified operations, but through the daily work of holding standards, of refusing to compromise, of showing people what they're capable of when someone believes in them enough to demand their best. My phone buzzes. A message from Cross. Just led my first major operation. Used everything you taught me. Thank you for believing I was ready before I did. I respond. You were always ready. You just needed someone to show you what ready looked like. Proud of you, Lieutenant. Another message arrives, this one from an unknown number. Reaper 7, this is Dagger 3. Heard you're doing good work. The old man would be proud. Stay safe out there. Dagger 3. That was Noah's call sign. I stare at the message, trying to place who might have his number now, then realize it doesn't matter. The message itself is what counts, confirmation that the network still exists, that the people who understand what Unit 77 meant are still out there, still holding the line in their own ways. I look at Harlow's coordinates again, at the date 3 months away. Whatever mission he's planning, it'll be dangerous, classified, probably something that pushes ethical boundaries and requires absolute trust. Part of me wants to stay here, continue the work I've started, see this command through to full reformation. But another part knows that's not how this works. You don't get to choose comfort. You go where you're needed most, do the work that needs doing, then move on before you start believing your own legend. I'll finish what I started here. I'll give them the tools and the framework and the example. Then I'll trust them to carry it forward, the same way I trusted Cole and Cross and all the others I've trained. That's the real legacy, not the work you do, but the work that continues after you're gone. The standards that outlast you. The people who carry forward the principles you taught them and pass them on to the next generation. I stand at the window, looking out at the nighttime flight line. Aircraft taxiing, crews working, the endless rhythm of a military base that never truly sleeps. Somewhere out there, Cole's running a training program in Germany. Cross is leading her team in Korea. Martinez and Chin and Williams are probably in the barracks, replaying the exercise, talking about what worked and what they'll do better next time. They're the legacy. Not me. I'm just the catalyst, the reminder, the person who showed them what was possible. The real work happens after I leave, when they face challenges without me there to guide them, when they have to decide for themselves whether standards matter enough to defend. I think about the tattoo on my ribs, about the 15 people who wore it, about the 3 who didn't come home. We made a promise to each other that their sacrifice wouldn't be wasted, that we'd carry forward the standards they died upholding. I've kept that promise. Not perfectly, perfection isn't possible, but faithfully. In every command I've served, in every officer I've trained, in every moment where I chose the hard right over the easy wrong. And I'll keep keeping it for as long as I'm able. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. We're the ones who hold the line. Always. No matter where they send us. No matter how many times we have to rebuild. No matter how many people doubt or resist or need convincing. We hold the line. And 1 year later, looking out at this base, at these people, at this mission that's just beginning, I know the line's still holding. That's enough. That's my line in the sand. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mina Glenford now, and I'll keep holding the standard. Your turn. Have you ever been publicly underestimated or humiliated at work? What did you do in the moment? If you were in that inspection, would you have spoken up or waited to see it play out? What's the difference between enforcing standards and abusing authority in your view? Leaders, how do you correct disrespect without crushing morale? Drop your story in the comments. If this hit home, like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a reminder to stand their ground.